Hi, I'm Lesko. I have two children, one son age 21 and one daughter age 16. I have to start out with I grew up in a unique neighborhood. Without going into great detail, it was a small neighborhood out in the country. Everybody was on anywhere from a 2-acre lot to a 7-acre lot. And we were a small community group of homes, maybe 8 families, where we interacted in all different sorts of activities, from planting trees to trash pickup to recycling. It was a unique neighborhood in that the woman who sold the property to those families, you had to be associated in some way to academia. It's something you can get away with today, but her way of trying to control an area and make sure that people were respectful of nature and their outdoor space and not encroaching on their neighbors but helping their neighbors. Because I grew up in that environment, then I took that with, I liked it. And most of the kids that grew up in that neighborhood went, not only did they go to college, but many of them went into the sciences, myself included. I'm a biologist. I have a master's degree in biology. I contract into U.S. Geological Survey, Great Lakes Research. I wanted to instill some of that in my kids, and I wanted them to take that with them. They have a different understanding, I think, of what it is to enjoy what's outdoors, to take that with them in a life lesson. I hope they continue that and teach their children. I think they will. It's like learning a second language. It just comes naturally if you're taught at a very young age. I believe that this is no different than that. They're taking it with them naturally. They don't even, they're not going to second guess it. They're just going to continue this, I hope, and teach their children and teach others and how to be respectful and enjoy what's around them. First thing that our children were introduced to were outside of videos, in which I'm speaking of Disney and those sorts of things, would have been computer games, so that we could really monitor what they were watching, what they were taking in. I'd say with the first child, we were better at taking the time to read to him, and I would say that is indicated by his being an avid reader. Second child, we were a little bit lazier on that. I definitely spent more time with Steve outdoors or in a different way than I did with Sierra, but still things applied where they weren't allowed, or we didn't have things in the house that were going to keep them from learning or interacting with other people. My big thing was I didn't want them to just sort of be in their own little world too much and not have to communicate and deal with the real world, with what was real out there, and that included our having animals. I thought that was important because it taught them a sense of responsibility and want. We had dogs and cats. However, I would say that our son, Steve, gravitated mostly towards the cat, probably due to size and everything as a young boy. That was his buddy who he felt responsible for. When we lost the first cat due to age of the cat, lived to be 19 years old, wasn't planning on getting another one until I realized how it affected him and lonely he was. He wasn't as attached to the dogs as he was to the cat. So I researched it greatly and found a breed that I thought would fit well into the family, that was a bit more dog-like. And hence we got our first cat, purebred ragdoll. Well, the horses, that wasn't, although Steve did things with the horses, that wasn't sort of his thing. He got then older and was more involved with sports. So it was Sierra, our daughter, who we got the first pony for. I had horses already that came with the marriage for my husband, because I had horses since I was 11 years old. But Sierra, we got her a pony. Probably she was a little too young. I think she was 4. But I couldn't resist. I couldn't wait. And she got the pony and started showing, just so that she had some sense also of what we were working towards. Why do we have this? We're out here grooming it and getting it ready, and you get to go into the ring and come out, you know, feeling like you've been rewarded in some way by, you know, just saying good job. And just that strong bond interaction that then you have with the horse. But both kids have ridden. It's just that our daughter Sierra is the one who is the accomplished rider now and showing competitively. I think that it was important because I had grown up this way, that you spend a lot of time outdoors. And if you're going to spend a lot of time outdoors, you have to have a respect and a knowledge for what is outdoors. Everything has a purpose and a place, and you need to understand what it's there for, what you can use it for, what works best in certain situations, because it goes from landscaping to using for building things to, again, what's safe in your area for maybe your livestock, what's poisonous, what's not. This is the plant that's making the horses sick. This is what we got to get out of the field. So you need this knowledge. You can't just go out there and live safely or together, you know, in your environment if you don't know what's out there. I think this is what makes it feel. See if you can see any more here in the leaves. So this was time that spent with the kids. We hiked, and when you're hiking, you don't just take in the pretty sights, you explain what's out there, because then they get more out of the whole experience. If they can't look down at the ground and see something and they would say, what is that? I want to be able to tell them what it is. Or if I can't tell them exactly what it is, I teach them by getting back to the house, say, you know what, we'll look that up. We'll find out what it is, because then I learn also. I think what my kids have gotten out of being outdoors and working with what's out there is then taking it one step further, and whether they're artistic by drawing or painting, which Steve is actually quite artistic. Maybe they'll use photography or video, which Steve has done both, but Sierra has really taken off with the photography. And what I find amazing about that is then I'm able to see more directly how they're seeing things and seeing how they've grown with their composition. Been pretty impressed with it. And it lets me know if I've been somewhat successful with what I've been trying to teach them or instill in them in coming adulthood, and hoping that they'll continue with this and teach others. I really want them to teach others and to take this hopefully positive experience and go further with it and bringing others into it. I mean, you can go to school, you can go to other things and learn music, you can learn math, you can learn, and you know, being an engineer or all these other skills, but how many people take the time anymore to be outside, be outdoors, and really take in what's out there? Do they turn over a rock and see what's under there? The biggest thing or drawback is probably, I'm sorry, I'm going to bash Apple a little bit here, because that's the one that's out there for everybody, and everybody understands iPhone, iPad, I this, I that. And it's kind of interesting when you think about I in front of it instead of we. But on that note, I think that what I struggle with, or you can take it as a negative, is our daughter, who's 16, is on her iPhone a lot. However, she is on her iPhone in the same room as us, and she's continually sharing information with me.
Oh my God. You know what Margaret's bio is on Twitter? Government runs in my blood because my dad is the mayor.
If she were sitting there and cocooning, I would be very concerned, very worried. But in some ways she gives me more information than I care to know. On the other hand, I know that she's safe. I know what she agrees with or what she disagrees with, and then we can discuss it based on what she sees other students doing, other kids doing, her peers. And I think that's really important because it keeps the line of communication open. But of course, the best times we have are when we are together, usually outside with the horses, and there aren't those sort of distractions. The iPhone stays in the house. There is no iPad. We aren't supporting our own addiction with that sense of connection or lack of real connection with the world. That said, there are certain nights for sure where we're each on our own, in our own little world. I could be on my computer, maybe working on photos, maybe surfing the internet. My husband might be on his iPad, reading some article, because that's the way you get your newspaper these days. Again, Sierra is, on her iPhone. Maybe she's messaging someone or just reading whatever all that stuff is, Snapchat and Instagram and all the Vines and everything that she ends up sharing with me that I never wanted to know about, but I have to. I have to keep up with things to understand where she's coming from. And what I realize is that she's not nearly as into it as other kids are. Doesn't make it right, but it does make it better. And yet she's very aware and has an understanding on how to handle some of the technology that's out there and not to abuse it. Steve is, I would say, about as balanced as you can be with all of it. I wouldn't say that he's on any of the equipment too much outside of if he's got to do something for school, but that's just the difference these days. Kids have to be on their laptops. That's how they get things done. That's how they communicate with their professors. Everything is there. It's just a different time. I think that today young people are being exposed heavily at a very early age to technology in not a healthy way. I think it's overstimulating. I think that they very easily become detached from reality and the responsibility that comes with it. Too many young people aren't held responsible. They don't feel responsible for what they say or what they do using today's technology, versus in the olden days when we'd use a telephone. You're much more likely to be held accountable for what you do. And the way things are handled in social media today, I think, is wrong. Kids, young people, they can't handle that. They don't know how to handle it, and they don't handle it right. And what's worse is that parents allow it by ignoring it. They don't think it's their kids that are doing it. That's where you get the bullying and all the other issues that come along with it. Again, because they're not held accountable. They're not being responsible for what they do. I think it's so important for kids today to interact both with humans and with animals and with being part of outdoors and making that connection. It's one big circle, and if they don't do that, then I don't think that they're getting full life experience and making good decisions all the way around, because they don't understand. I think that it's important that when you have, when your spouse is a part of this whole thing, that they are in agreement with you. And in my case, certainly Mike, my husband, father of Steve and Sierra, he's very supportive. He's a city boy. He didn't have an understanding of all of this, but he's gone out and learned. I think one of his most favorite things of all to do now, truly, is morel mushroom hunting. Had never done that before, doesn't even like mushrooms, but he loves being outdoors and looking and searching, and he takes in the whole environment when he's out there. He can't wait until that April, May time to go out and do that. And meanwhile, he's looking for other things. And names them and lists them, and just enjoys what he sees out there. And he's so proud of the kids for knowing what they know and being able to share things with them. He loves to hike. He has shown that with the kids, and just being outdoors and enjoying that whole thing. But again, just taking it all in and slow. It's not about the race. It's not about being the fastest. It's about taking it all in and understanding it. And I think Mike has really enjoyed this whole growing up time with sharing everything that he knows with his kids and learning himself. That's all part of it. We just, like I said earlier, we all continue to learn, and in this way it's been great because we learn together. I think if I were to attempt to give advice to any new parents, which I struggle to do because I think that that's a very sensitive area, very sensitive topic. But if they wanted some advice, if they were looking for some advice, it would be to take things slow. They grow up so fast. Yes, you'll be tired, but do those small things. You need to sit down and do things with your children. You need to take them out and show them things. And again, don't be afraid that maybe you're learning also. That's all part of it. You don't have to know everything when you're out there with them. That's not what's important. It's important to show your children that you're learning also, because they'll take that with them. And I think that to just not use technology as a crutch as a babysitter. I think that's what happens these days is parents are tired. They're all part of what I said earlier about a rat race. And I think Mike and I did a really good job of slowing things down a little bit. And as much as our kids were involved in things, also taking that step back and making sure that we had family time and doing the simple things. It could have been a bonfire outside, could be skating on the pond, could be fishing, taking walks out in the fields, in the woods, mushroom hunting, riding the horses, trimming trees, planting trees. It goes on and on and on. And I thought River was okay with that. And I think he was, but I think it got in his system.
Yeah.
And now he's having issues with that. Mm-hmm. And all it causes the stocking up, the mild cases stocking up on those hind legs. Yeah. And the severe cases can cause them to founder, so we can't risk it. Mm-hmm. So we'll sell it and let people know. And try and get it to the right people so they can feed their livestock, not us. Okay, you about ready to win? I think one of the best parts about this project even is Steve isn't aware. He'll be more aware of this as he goes through and he edits and cuts and re-listens and everything, is that he's taking away from this that maybe he's learned more than he realized. Maybe he knows more than he thought he did, and we'll look back and enjoy the moments that we've had together more than he had and not take it for granted and say, wow, that was pretty incredible. That was pretty special. That's a sign of being successful as a parent.